All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So I've got a couple interesting stories for you guys today. The first story I wanted to start out with is a recent physique update of Dexter Jackson. And this is at about the 4-week out mark from the 2019 Mr. Olympia. This is a front double bicep shot, obviously. Dexter just won the Tampa Pro, beating out Luke Sando. Dexter took 7th at last year's Mr. Olympia. But at 4 weeks out, the blade is looking just about as sharp as ever in preparation for the 2019 Mr. Olympia. So the question is, can Dexter Jackson pull off a miracle? Could he win the 2019 Mr. Olympia? Could he be top 3 again? Could he be top 2 again? Is this the year that Dexter Jackson could win his second Mr. Olympia title? I think Dexter is looking like a serious contender at this point, even though you have some serious threats to that top 6 this year, and Rolly Winkler, William Bonac, Brandon Curry, Luke Sando. You've got these younger guys that are getting better and better every single year. They're improving from show to show. And you've got Dexter, who Dexter is one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, if not the greatest of all time. Won more pro shows than any bodybuilder, won more titles than any pro bodybuilder. He has won more Arnold Classic Columbus titles than any other pro bodybuilder. I believe he's been competing at the Olympia for more consecutive years than any other pro bodybuilder. So could Dexter win the 2019 Mr. Olympia? And if he doesn't, or if he doesn't place well, would Dexter retire at the 2019 Mr. Olympia? I don't think so. And that brings me to my next point, which Dexter and Jay Cutler were originally the people that brought this up. This new show in 2020 that Dexter and Jay Cutler, in an interview with Mike Rashid, they believed was going to have this crazy high prize money, even higher than the Olympia. And that is going to be The Rock's show in 2020. The Rock will have an IFBB show in 2020. So I touched on this in my video yesterday. And I've got a couple different sources that have told me different things about this show. But they all agree on one thing. The Rock will have an IFBB show in 2020. That show will be held in Atlanta in 2020. That show will also be sometime around summertime in 2020. Now, the one thing that people don't seem to agree on is the prize money. Now, I heard from one of my sources that the prize money was going to be very extreme, higher than the Olympia, and with the intent of being bigger than the Olympia, with the intent of superseding the Olympia. And Jay Cutler and Dexter Jackson also seemed to believe that in the interview that they did on Mike Rashid's channel. Now, the other source that I had seemed to be under the impression that this show will in no way supersede the Olympia, not in prize money, not in promotion, not in anything like that. There's no intent for this show to surpass the Olympia, and that this show will more or less end up being kind of like another Arnold Classic. So I'm not really sure which of those two sides is true, but again, we do know one thing for sure. The Rock will be having an IFBB show in 2020, and it will be in Atlanta. I'm also told that there will be a heavy focus on the female competitors because of The Rock's ex-wife, Dani Garcia, who was a female bodybuilder, has a vested interest in the female division. So I am being told that the female divisions will be heavily focused on at this competition. So we do know at least that there will be men's open bodybuilding and some sort of pro female divisions at this show. That's what we do know. We do also know it's going to be heavily promoted. We do also know that The Rock is going to be bringing big name sponsors to the table, mainstream sponsors that bodybuilding isn't used to seeing. So the question of the prize money, I actually don't think is that unrealistic, that the prize money theoretically could surpass the prize money of the Olympia. I don't think that's totally an impossible thing to comprehend. Now, again, one of my other sources told me that the prize money at these shows is heavily regulated, and it's not going to happen that this show is going to surpass the Olympia in prize money or in any way. However, I do think that The Rock's star power is something that should not be discounted. I mean, you've got the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio. Some could even make the argument that the Arnold Classic Expo, I think, most people could make the argument that the Arnold Classic Expo is more popular of an expo than the Olympia Expo. The show is definitely number 2 to the Olympia, the bodybuilding show itself, but it's still a pretty big deal. So I could certainly see, once The Rock gets this show started, the star power of The Rock, the influence of The Rock, the sponsors that The Rock would bring to the table, the money, the connections, the networking that The Rock brings to the table, and people that would just go to the show just because The Rock's name is attached to it. I mean, the people that aren't even interested in bodybuilding that might show up to this event, just because The Rock is hosting it is certainly something worth considering. And the potential for this thing to really take off in 2020 is something that certainly should be considered. Whether or not the intent is to surpass the Olympia, whether or not the intent is to have prize money greater than the Olympia, I think the possibility that this could be bigger than the Olympia is certainly something to consider. So we don't really know how big this thing is going to be, and there's still a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation at this point. I think there's a lot of things that no one really knows about how this is going to go down. But we do know it is going to go down. So that was my point with Dexter Jackson. Even if he doesn't win the Olympia, even if he doesn't do that well at the Olympia, there's this show around the corner, this brand new show. Whether or not it surpasses the Olympia in prize money, I guarantee the prize money is going to be ridiculous. And this show is probably going to end up being one of the top 3 shows in bodybuilding next to the Arnold Classic and the Olympia at some point in time. I think this show is going to be a very big deal. There's going to be a lot of money involved, and I think it's going to be very attractive for a lot of bodybuilders that might not necessarily be attracted to competing in the Olympia, which brings me to my next point. In an interview on Muscular Development's YouTube channel, George Farah, who is the coach of Kai Green, he kind of said that Kai will compete again. In fact, that was the title of the video, that Kai Green will in fact compete again, but he doesn't say Kai will compete at the Olympia again. So this might be something that Kai would be interested in. A brand new show, a brand new title, very big deal, huge amount of publicity, potentially a huge amount of money. And it's a show that nobody has won yet because it's a brand new title. And this could be a title that becomes a very big title. So the first person to win it, it'd probably be a pretty big deal. So there's a lot of incentive for top pros to compete in this show because, like I said, in all likelihood, this show is going to become one of the biggest shows in bodybuilding once it takes off. So whoever wins the first one, I think their name is probably going to go down in bodybuilding history for winning the first of one of these very big shows. And I think that doesn't only apply to a guy like Kai Green. It could apply to a guy like Phil Heath. If Phil does decide he doesn't want to go back to the Olympia, this could be a big money show that Phil could compete in. This could also apply to Shawn Rhoden. Shawn Rhoden was banned from competing at the Olympia, but he was not banned from competing in the IFBB. Could this be a show that Shawn jumps in to get that big paycheck, to get a big win because he wasn't allowed to be at the Olympia? So that's why, in some ways, I do believe the very first year of this show, it has the potential to be a bigger deal than the Olympia because there might be guys there that won't be at the Olympia. Shawn Rhoden could very likely do that show. Mr. Olympia competing in a show that's not the Olympia could make that show a bigger deal than the Olympia. That's just the fact of the matter. And let's say Phil Heath doesn't compete in the 2019 Mr. Olympia because he wants to wait to go head-to-head with Shawn again. So let's say Shawn does this show. Let's say Phil jumps in this show because Shawn jumps in this show. And let's say Kai Green jumps in this show because he wants to go head-to-head with Phil again. If you had Phil, Kai, and Shawn on a stage that's not the Olympia stage, would that show not be a bigger deal than the Olympia? So regardless of all the rumors floating around about this show, regardless of what the prize money is going to be, regardless of if this show becomes a rival or competitor to the success of the Olympia, regardless of all that, the fact of the matter is we know for a fact this show is happening. We know The Rock is promoting it. We know it will be in Atlanta, and we know it will be 2020. So we do know it's happening. All right, so that's enough about The Rock show for now, but I do want to know what you guys think in the comment section below of this video about The Rock having his own bodybuilding show in 2020. Do you think it could surpass the Olympia? Do you think it'll be as big of a deal as it could be? And do you think the prize money will be higher than the Olympia? Now, the next story that I have for you guys today is big Ronnie Coleman back in the gym again. Another training video on Instagram, training biceps here. There's a little bit of controversy. I don't know if it was real or sarcastic or not between him and Dexter Jackson. But Dexter basically did a post where he said that he believed Ronnie should give up bodybuilding. And in this post, Ronnie Coleman talks about how he's back in the gym, he's training, and he's never going to quit working out. He says working out is the best thing to happen to him all day. Then he goes on to say, Mr. Olympia 08, which is Dexter Jackson's Instagram handle, and the rest of you guys, quit wasting your breath and your time commenting and giving out advice, y'all's lame-ass advice about me quitting. Trust me, I love you guys to death for being concerned about me, but it's not going to happen. In closing, I would like to say, oh yeah, it ain't over, mole buckers. Once again, it's on like ding-dongs. So, Big Ronnie isn't quitting anytime soon. And that about wraps it up for the video today, guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already for more Olympia updates, more updates on The Rock's new show in 2020, and more bodybuilding and fitness videos. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. And as always, Nick Strength and Power signing out.